Managing objects in Active Directory domain services. Objects we have in Active Directory services like users object, completer objects, all the other objects we have like shared computers, printers. So we can manage all those objects from the Active Directory domain services. Now first we have users and groups. We create users. Now when we are having in the workgroup environment, we create users in the local system. Local system, that means every system has their own users. But when we are in the domain environment, so we create domain users. Domain users, that means we create the users on domain controller. The domain controller machine, the server which is handling the whole domain, and the users we create on domain controllers, it can be it can log into any machine in the domain. Like we have hundreds of clients machine like Windows 10 machine, Windows 8 machine. So all those user accounts which we create on the user on the domain controller, so they can log into any client machine anytime. So these user accounts allow or deny access to sign in into computers, and it grants the access to process and services and manage the access to network resources. So these user accounts used to do what? It's used to allow or deny the signing into computers. The computers which we have in the domain as a client computers. So users are like allowed or denied or allowed. They can use those resources or not. So very simple, the users are user accounts, which is the domain users. They can be what? They can use the whole resources of our domain, whether it is computers, shares, services, process, everything. It manages the access to the network resources also. That is what? The share, printers and everything. Now user accounts we can create by using the Active Directory users and computers. We can create by using Active Directory administrative center, and also we can create by using the command line tools like PowerShell we can use, or we can use DS add command also. DS add command was available. It is a CMD command tool. It is available since 2000. We can use that. But now we have PowerShell, so we can use PowerShell for creating the user accounts. So we can use users and computers, because now Active Directory users and computers to create the account, or we can use Active Directory administrative centers, because after creating the domain and the domain controller, every account is become the domain account. It is not a local account. So we can't create it from the local users and groups. We can only create them from Active Directory users and computers or administrative center or PowerShell. Then when we are creating the account, we have to consider about the naming formats, how we are going to name the accounts, and also what will be the UPN suffix. UPN, that means user's principal name, that name which is used to that name which uses the user to log in. Like for example, the user name might be different, but the login name might be a simple name which user used to log in the system, or log into domain, or to use the domain resources, or log into a client machine. So UPN suffix, simply it is like username at the domain name. It is like that. So we have to consider this before going to create the accounts. Then after creating the account, we configure the accounts informations, like these accounts, organizations information, member of information. Member of information, that means user is member of how many groups or which groups, because in Windows all the restrictions and permissions the users get, they get from the groups. The by default some groups we have, the predefined group, by default groups, some groups we have which gives the users permission. Like when we create a user account in Active Directory, by default all normal accounts will be member of the domain users group, and they will get the only permissions which that domain user group is having. And also if we want to increase the privilege for some user, so what we do, we make those user member of some other groups, and that we can configure from member of. It is what? Member of which group. So we can increase the privilege of any user by adding that user into some other groups, a privileged group. So we have multiple default groups there which we can use to give permission or extra privileges to some users. Then password settings we have to configure. We have to configure the profiles, policies and extensions that we configure when we are creating the user accounts. Now we can create the accounts by using the administrative center. We can create the account by using the Active Directory users and computers also. Now this is our domain controller server 1. His domain name is sai.com, and here we want to create the account. So we will go to tools, and under the tools we have all these Active Directory management consoles, management tools, and where we have these Active Directory users and computers. So we can create the accounts from using this Active Directory users and computer console. For creating the account, we open this, and when you open this you will see the hierarchical structure of our domain. This is the domain we have, sai.com, and under the domain we have these built-in containers. These are the built-in containers which comes by default. Now containers means the object where we the containers means the collection of objects, like where we put the objects of Active Directory, like users and groups. For example, here in built-in container we have these built-in groups that is already in this. And as I said, if you want to give some user a privilege for using something else, for doing something else, so we can add that user into these computers, these built-in groups. This built-in group has predefined privileges, predefined permissions. You can see it in the description that what this group has and what the member of this group can do. So you can add those user into these groups. Then in this column you will see the accounts, the client accounts which you have. We have member of this domain. These are the client machines we have. So users can log into these accounts, these machines. Then here you will see the domain controllers we have, user security, the foreign security principles. Then we service accounts we have, and then users we have. In the user container we see all the domain users and groups, and by default we have these default groups and two users, that is administrator and the guest user. Guest user by default it is disabled. It is the user same as the user normal users, but it has least privilege than the normal user, and it is just a guest account. As a name suggests, if suppose we have some guest user which is only for some time, then we can allow them to use this account. Now there are the other groups we have. These are the domain groups which we can use these groups to give the additional permission to users. For example, by default every user will be a member of this domain user group. If you want to give an extra privilege, like I want to give him to manage the read-only domain controller, so I will add the user into this group. So it will be it can do read-only domain controllers. It can manage it can be the group of the caching user. It is actually we can add them to group policy create owner, so it can create and own the group policy object, and same as the other groups we have. Now we want to create the user account here. So for that, what we will do, we will right click on the container where we want to create the account. So by default all the user and group accounts are there in this user container. So I will click on this, and then I will go on to select new, and new. So what new you want to create, you can create computer account, you can create contacts, groups, interorganizational persons, then also create key credential, resources property, shadow principal container, MSL imaging, PSPs, MSMQ, QLIs, printers, users, and share folders. You can even create the share folder from here. Now all these objects are from the different things. Like for example, the contact. This contact is basically used in Exchange server. So right now we don't need this because we are not having the Exchange server. Same as the other things are for the other services. Now this we need the user account, so we create the user account here. So we select user. It opens this wizard where we can fill the information. It is not giving a full information here. We are able to fill the first name, initial, last name, then a login name, whatever the login name, that means simple. This is the user principal name, this is UPN, this is the user login name, so user will log in with using this name at the domain name. And also it can use this pre-2000 way of login, like domain name slash then the username. So this is what we decide here, and then what we go next and provide the password. Now by default for the Active Directory, in Active Directory policy for the password is enabled, that says that password must be more than 7 characters, complex password we have to give. It is not allowed default, by default it is not allowed blank password. So if you try to use blank password, it will not work. It has to use the complex more than 7 character password. Then these are the other information for the password, like first by default it is this checkbox is selected saying user must change the password at next logon. That means when the user logs in, so he has to change the password. It will ask to change the password because the password is configured by the administrator. So if suppose administrator configure 100 users, if the administrator create the 100 users, so administrators do what? They create those 100 users with the default same password. So everyone knows what is the password. So administrator will force them to change the password at next logon, so that when the user logs in, they will force to change the password. Otherwise everyone will have the same password and they can use each other's account. So if you this is the default thing, but I don't want, so I can remove it. Then you can select user cannot change password, then user will not be able to change the password. If you select this, then otherwise the user can change their own passwords. Then password never expire we can select, that means the user's password will never expire. But if you don't select this, by default the password will expire after the 42 days. The policy is configured by default. Then we can configure the account to be a disable, that means the account will be created but it will remain disabled until we enable it. So we can create the account, like I want to create the account for the future user. The user is not yet available, but when the user will come, so I will enable the account. So I can put it disable also. Now no other option it will show here in this wizard. You have to finish this. This is the summary which we have selected, and then you finish to create the account. Now if you want to fill the other information, this is the account we created. If you want to fill the other informations, then we have to go to the properties of this account, like right click and then go to the properties, and then we can see these other informations. Like you want to in the journal information, you have name, first name, initial, last name, display name. You can add description, you can add office information, you can add telephone number, email address, web page. Then in address tab you can add the address of that user. Then in the account tab you can see the information about the UPN, and you can also change the login hours, like when the user is we want them to allow to log in, like login permit and login deny. So for example, suppose they will not log in at night, so I will deny from 12 to 7. So I can select this, deny. They will not allow to log in on Sunday, deny. Saturday, deny. Then you can they are not able to log in after 7 p.m. so I will deny from there also. So just like that we can configure the login hours for the users, that users will only able to log in to that particular time, and other times they will not be able to log in. Then also I said that users can log into every machine in the domain, any client in the domain, but we want, then we can change this to some particular machine. We can select the user, so the computer account here, that we want this user to be logged in. So only that computer account this user can log in. Other computers they will not be able to log in. By default any user can log into any computer. We can restrict them to some specific account. Then we have the option to unlock the account here. Unlock, that means if suppose the user account is locked, there may be another reasons for that, wrong passwords given, invalid attempts it has done, so the account will get locked. So we can unlock the account from here, and only administrator can unlock it. Then the other information about the password configuration we can have here, These are the password related settings we can change, like the user must change the password at next logon, user cannot change, password never expire, and other information here. Then we can expire the account. By default it is not going to expire the account, but we can set the account expiration date also, and on that particular date the account will be expired. Like for example, some user is coming for 1 month, 2 month, and after that they will not be available in our domain. They're not been allowed to use the domain. So what domain resources, then we can do what, we can create the account based on the date. So we know that in this date they will be signed out from our company, our domain. They are just a temporary user. So we can predefine that account will be expired on that predefined date, so that I don't have to manually disable the account. Even if suppose I did not disable the account for that user, that means what, the account will be available and that user can still use the account. And if he do anything wrong with that account, then what, administrator will be responsible, because he will say that he has already signed out. Now he is not with the company or with the organization. So administrator's job is to manage the account which is not being used, either disable them or preset the date to expire them. Just like this, we have multiple other properties here, like managing the telephone numbers. We can add the organization detail. We can add the com detail here, telephone, remote desktop profiles, remote control profiles. We have option to add the users group. Like by default I have said the every user is member of domain users group, and domain user group is the normal user group. It is not having much permissions. So if you want to give a more privilege to this user, then you can add this user to any other group based on the permission you want to give. So you can add this user into that group and that user will get more privilege. There is a dial-in setting for user to log in from VPN remote connection. So log in from the VPN or direct access connection. Then we have the environmental settings. We can set the environment programs, start the following program at logon. So we can configure some programs here that will start automatically when this user log in. Then we have option to manage the session for this user, and a disconnect session. That means it will never end, but we can select to end, like if the user is not using the account. So what happened to that, it is actually for the dial-in connection, direct access connection, active session limit and ideal session limit, disconnect from the session or end session, what happened, and allow reconnection from any client or from originating client only. So we can define the session information also. Now these are the properties, these are the attributes we can configure for the users after creating the account. The other way of creating the account is the administrative center. This is the new tool, this is the new console we have. It is after 2012 we have this console, and when you open this administrative center, it looks like the server manager. So if you see this, it looks like the server manager itself, like this. This is our server manager and this is our administrative center. It looks like same the server manager, and because it is a new tool here, prior to the 2012 it is not available. In server 2008 is also it is not available. Now here we can do what, we can do all these things, and we can do the most common tasks the administrators do, like resetting the password for some user, or searching for some users whether the user is there or not, searching the user, resetting the password. So these are the console there to do this. Then we have option to manage here. We can navigation the node, we can manage the option list, like what options we have. Now here we have these options, like overview. We are having this overview here. It will show you information about what we can do with this. It is showing it is learn more. And we have dynamic access control. We can create claim based account access here. Then we have the authentication management here, and we also have the global search, where we can search the user globally. Globally, that means the whole forest. We have the user domain here. Now here we have the domain where we can create the account. Under the domain, you can see here different containers it is showing. Now it is showing more container than the normal user Active Directory user and computers. It is not it is showing more containers, like for example this infrastructure, keys, and TPM device, system, program data, NTDS quotas. These containers are not showing here under this users and computers console, because those are advanced containers. Those containers you can't see unless you have to go for view and select the advanced feature. Now you can see those containers here also: the keys container, NTDS quota container, system container, TPM device container. So it shows these containers when we allow when we enable these advanced features here. But in administrative center it shows by default. Now we can select this here. We want to create the user account in this container. So we will select this container. Here it is saying that this is the object class is container, and description of this container is default container for upgraded user accounts. And in this side we have option to do what we want to do. Like for example, we have option to for the domain related option, we have change domain controller option. That means this user container we are seeing from this server 1. If you want to see it from the other server, then we can change the domain controller. We can raise the functional level of forest and also raise the functional level of domain. Then we can go on to select the new here. It is for creating the OUs and users and groups. And also we can select it from here to create the interorganizational group, person, group, or user and computer. We can search the under this node, and we can check the properties of this node. This is the property of this user container. Now I want to create new user from here, so I will select new and go on to select user, and it opens the whole format, the whole form here, where we can manage we can add the information about account, organization, member of information, password settings, and policy settings, profile and policy settings. So if you want to create the user here, from here, so you will the whole form is available, and from here we can fill all the information, all the important information from here. Like you can fill the information about the user, like this user is this, then you can put the login name. This is the user's principal name, UPN name. We can say it is what UPN login. The SAM account name, this is what the pre-2000 login information. Then we can set the password. Then we are creating this user under this container, that is the user container we want. Then we can change the container also. Right now it is already selected, this container. Then also we can protect this account from accidental delete. Now accidental delete, that means this option we get from when we create this account from administrative center, and this will do what? It will protect the accidental delete. That means if suppose I select this and I create this account, then what if somebody wants to delete this account and right click and delete, then it will not delete. That means administrator itself, it try to delete the account, then it will not allow the administrator also to delete the account. But if we want to delete the account, then it has to remove this checkbox, then it can delete the account. It can delete the account, but only after removing this checkbox. So it will not, it is not like accidental delete. You are purposely deleting. So if suppose you select multiple users to delete, and in that you mistakenly selected this account also, and you delete this account. So if this option is not selected, the account will be deleted. But if this option is selected, then other accounts will be deleted, but this account will not be deleted, because for deleting this account you have to remove this checkbox. So it is not accidental delete. It will not allow the account to be deleted accidentally. Now we have option here to change the login hours, just like we did it for the other user. Then also the option to choose the log on machine. Then we have the option here to account expiration. never, or you want to select some date, then the option to change the user must change the password at next logon, or the other options we can select. Other options, for example, we can choose a password never expire, user cannot change password, or even Microsoft password or smart card is required for interactive logon. We can select the smart card login also, and for that we need a different hardware devices. Then here we have the encryption option to encrypt these uh, password related information. The password encryption we can change. Then the other options for related the password account is also there. The account is sensitive and cannot be deleted, and do not require Kerberos pre-authentication also we can enable. So these are the options. It is available directly here from Administrative Center. Then we have the option to select the organization information. This organization information, like for example display name, office, email, web page, phone number, home, mobile, fax, pager, IP phone number, job title, department, company, whatever you want, you can fill all these information from here. Then member of, we can fill all the information. We can add this user into other groups. By default we have not created the user right now, so it is not showing any group here, but after creating you will see the group user, domain users group here, and if you want to add additional group, then we can add directly right now. Then we have the password policies here, the password settings we can change. Then we can change the profile setting here. Then we have the policies here for authentication. These are the authentication policies. Now after selecting everything, what we do, we will select OK to create the account from here. We will press OK, and it is now created. Now we want to see what is inside this user container, so we have to double click on it, and it will show all the accounts, all the groups in this container. And this is what we have created right now. If we want to see the properties of this, so we can go on to press properties, and it will open this checkbox again. And from here we can change the options which we have not changed, so we can edit these whole option. And now you can see here under the member of, now it is showing here that it is a member of domain users group, and we can add some other groups here for adding this other group for membership here. So this is what we created the user from the Administrative Center. And when you select the user account, you have other options also directly here, like to reset the password. We can view the resultant password settings. We can we can add directly into the group. We can disable the account, delete, move the account also. Move the account from one domain to other domain in the same forest. Then the other option, the third option we have that we can create the account by using the PowerShell. So for creating the account from PowerShell, we can open the PowerShell first. And from here we have a command, new AD user. This command we have to create the user account. So you can create the user account by using the new AD user, and then you can fill up the whole information from here. Like I want to say the display name, this will be the display name. Then I want to put the name, that means the first name, last name. So I will say like this. Then I want to put users principal name, that is UPN. So I can give like what this user will log in as a this UPN. Then SAM account name, like old Windows pre-Windows 2000 account name, so we can also mention it that also. Then other information, like for example we want to mention surname. Then we want to mention the department, So we can mention the department also. Then we can also mention city. Then we can also mention many other information, like all the attributes. We can also we can add these information here. Account expiration date, not delegated, password, these allow reversible password encryption, password settings, all these things. Cannot change the password, certificate, change password at next logon, company name, all these information, credential, description, division, email address, employee ID, employee number, enable, disable, fax, given name. We can change the given name also. Given name. So we can have fill all the information. Now when we press enter here, the password will not be there for user. So we have to configure the password also. So for that we'll say account password. And the account password in PowerShell we do it in different way. So here we will do read from host as a secure string. That means it will ask the user. Now when I press enter, it will ask me to give the password, and I will say enter password here. Now this message it will display to me that enter the password, and then when I will see the message enter password, then I will enter the password, and the account will get the password what I will enter. So it is going to read the password from me when I press enter. Then the account will remain disabled. Remember, when we create any account from the command line from the PowerShell, it will remain disabled until we enable the account. So for enable the account also we will use the enable option. So as I want to create the account, same I want to enable the account also. So I have to give this enable option, otherwise the account will remain disabled. So I will say enable is equal to true. That means the value, I am setting this enable value to true. That means the account will be enabled. Now you see it is asking me the password, and this word, this string I have given here, it is showing me here that enter the password. So I will enter the password which I want to give to this user account. And now the user account is created. And remember, I have given the enable option also, so it will be enabled by default. Otherwise it will remain disabled, just like the guest account. Like this guest account, you can see the arrow, red arrow in the downward arrow, that means the account is disabled. But the account which we created here, this one is not disabled, it is enabled. And this account has information here like this: first name, last name, display name. Then we have mentioned the city here. We have mentioned the SAM account name, UPN, and also we have mentioned the department. So with all the information, this account is created through the PowerShell. So we have these three options to do what? Create the accounts. Now the next thing is the profile. Profile, that means the user profile. Now what happened when you create the user will log into the client machines. And client machine means user can log into any client machine. Any client machine, that means if this is PC1, so user can log into PC1 also, and user can log into PC2 also, PC3 also, PC4 also. Everywhere user can log into any client machine within the domain. That means user can use the resources of the whole domain. Now if suppose we have user, so when the user logs into PC1, so user's profile will be created here by default on PC1. It is called local profile. Local profile, that means all the desktop document, pictures, videos, all those settings of the desktop will be created under this profile file, under the profile directory, and it will be the profile for that user, and it will be local. Now when the user logs into this PC2, so the profile will be created here, a separate profile, local profile. This is the default behavior. Now what happened, we can have sometime problems because user don't understand these things. So user do what? Sometimes user say what? when the user logs into PC1 and it has created something on the desktop or document directory. It has created some file on the desktop or document directory. But remember, the profile is local, so it will be stored here under the local profile directory. Now the user next day logs into PC2 here, and it will say, oh, where is my file? Where is my file which I created on the desktop? Where is my file which I created on the document? Now it will not show here on PC2 because it was created on PC1. Now in that case, it will call the administrator and say, I'm not, my files are missing, I'm not getting my files. I have created a file yesterday on desktop on document, and now it is not showing here. So on those kind of users, what we can do, we can create the roaming profile. Roaming profile, that means we can configure the profile path here on that profile user's property under the profile tab. So what we can do, we can give the remote path here. It is the share folder. That means we will create a share folder in the file server, and then what we will mention the profile path for those users of this share folder. Now when the user logs into PC1, the profile will be created under this share folder. So the whatever it will do, whatever the changes it will do here in PC1, when the user logs out, all the changes will be saved into this PC in this share folder. Now next day when the user logs into PC2, so the profile will be loaded from this share folder. And it will get all those things which the user has created on this PC1. It will get everything on PC2 because the profile is saving not locally, it is saving on this share location, the location which we configure here under this tab, under this option profile path. Now when the user logs out from here, then his profile will also save, it will be saved again on this share folder. So it will be called roaming profile because it will roam with the user. It is for those users who's logging on multiple machines. So we can create the these roaming profile for them. Otherwise the users will log in, normally they log into same machines every day. But if you have some users which is roaming around different machines in the domain, then we can create the roaming profile for them. And we can do that by just adding the share folder path here under the profile path. So this is what the share folder path under this server. Under this server we have created the folder called profile, and under that, and it is also hidden for security reasons. And then instead of giving the username, we created this we added this tag. It is actually a tag. It will automatically create the username here. So it will be created as a username, the directory will be created as a username, and it will store into this directory, which is in the share directory, and we can create multiple users profile path. We have one more option here, it is to log on script. We can add some script here from the share location, so that whenever the user logs in, so that script will run and it will do the job, whatever the job we have configured in the script. And also by default, every user's path is home folder path is local. So whenever the user logs into the client machine, the profile will be created on the local machine. This is the default selection. So we can create the roaming profile, or even we can put this on a map drive also. We can put it on the map drive also for the home folder. So everything will be roaming, everything will be roaming for the user. And these settings are available under the user's properties profile tab. That means if you go to the properties of user, in the profile tab you have this option, and by default you can see it is local path selected, so always it will create under the local path. We can create the remote path here, we can add the share folder name here, we can add the network drive name here also for home folder and for the profile folder. Then managing the inactive and disable user account. That means if a user account that will be inactive for a period of time, that should be disabled rather than deleted. So if suppose some accounts we have which is not used, for some period of time, or a period of time, then what we can do, we can delete the account. But deleting means what? Removing the SID, wasting the SID of that user account also. Maybe that SID has connected to different permissions or different resources. So losing the SID is not good. Maybe suppose the next time the user come back and it says I want to use that account with all those permissions, all those access permissions. So it will be difficult for us to find that the user has permissions on which resources. So it is a good idea to disable the account rather than deleting the account. To disable the account, we can disable the account directly from the users group, users and computers. We can right click on the account and just select the disable. So for example, I want to disable the account, so I will right click on it. I can do many other things, like I can copy, I can add to a group, I can disable the account, reset password, move, set home page, and send mail also. I want to disable, so I will click on disable and the account will be disabled. Now disable means you can see the down arrow here. That means it is disabled now. And nobody can use this account, nobody can use the account to log in. We want to enable the account, again right click and enable. And when we create the account from PowerShell, so by default it will remain disabled. And when you want to enable it, then we have to right click and then we have to enable the account. Just like this guest account. Now the next thing is user account templates. This template simplifies the creation of new account. Simplifies the creation of new account, that means if suppose we are creating multiple accounts for same profiles. Same profile, that means for example, I want to create an account with these profiles like users, group memberships, home directory path, profile path, login script, password settings, department, managers, and some other settings. So I want to create the account with all these. We have to create 50 accounts with all these informations. Based on suppose department, we have an account for different department. So I want to create the account for different department, and in that department we have multiple users, and I want to create those accounts. And sometime later we have some other user also with this department with these same settings. So I have to create the account, then configure these settings. Rather than that, I can do what? I can create the template with all these settings, and then what? Whenever I want to create any account, new account for these settings, then I can just copy the template and then I can create the new account, and that new account will get the same profile, same configurations of that template. So we can create multiple accounts like this. Now for creating the templates, we can create from the Active Directory users and computers. So we can create it from here, and templates will help us to create multiple accounts with the same configurations. Normally what we have to do, we have to create the account, then we have to go to the properties, and then we have to configure all these things. Other than that, we can do what? We can create the templates for them. Now for creating the template, we will do what? Right click, select new, and we'll create it like a normal user. We'll go on to select the user account, and then what? I will give the login name, and I will start the name from underscore. Now when I start it from the underscore, that means our machine will understand that I want to create the template. I will mention it like IT departments. It is IT departments template, and I will give the login name also same as this is for the IT departments template. Then without password you can't create any account here, so you have to provide the password, and I will use this, and I will say never expire. I don't have to change the template password again and again, and done. Now when you create this, when you give the name with starting with underscore, it will come directly in the list, it will come directly up. So you can see that this is the account, this is the template account. Otherwise you have to find the template accounts there. Now it will come directly on the first up, it will come directly up, so that we can see this is the template. Now I want to fill up some information in this template, so that whenever I create new user, so that user will get the same information. So I will right click and go to the properties of this, and here you can see the properties, and you can see this property is different than the normal user. If I open the property for normal user, we get the properties, we get different properties. It is a different properties with many other tabs, but when you open the templates property, it is not the templates property. So you will see this, okay, it is now created, so it is now showing the all properties. Otherwise, first time when you open this, it shows only the related properties which is we can change. Now it is showing all the properties here. So here what we can fill up all the informations what we want. Like for example, I want to fill the office information. It is the and then we can fill the email address, telephone number. We can fill the common information like addresses. I want to fill the information about the department, company name. So we can fill up the common informations for the users in this template. Now when we create the new account, so the account will get the same template information, like what information we have filled into the template. Now I will right click on it, I will go on to select copy here, because I want to create the new account based on this template, and it is going to copy the properties. Now first we have to mention the name and all that, otherwise it will use the template information. Other information it will use from the template. I will say this is my user account, and I will give the password, and you see it is using the templates option, says password never expire. We have selected this for the template, so it is also using this. I don't want that, so I will go on to select this and create it. Now the account which we created here, if you see the properties of this account, so when you go to the address, you can see the city is already selected. You can go for the organization, and you can see the department, company name is already selected. So whatever the information you fill up the template, in the template it will have this information here on this user account also. You can add groups also, and you can add any other information here. And by this what it will simplifies the creation of user account, multiple user account when we create with the template. Now next thing is implementing and managing OUs. OU means organizational units. Now this organizational unit is also a container object. Just like the default containers we have the OU containers also. What does the OU containers do? It actually, using the OU containers, we can do what we can manage the user account properly based on the different criterias. Like we can manage the account based on location, or we can manage the account based on organization. We can manage the account hybridly, like we can create the hybrid strategy. We can manage the account based on resources. We can manage the account based on multi-tenancy. So these different way, like it depend on us, like what we want, how we want to manage the accounts. So we can create the different OUs based on location. We can create statics, we can delegate. The delegation can be complicated if you create location based. If you create resources based, then not static. It is easy to delegate the administration also. If you based on resources, then we can create the multi-tenancy, where you can the creation will be static, easy to delegate the administration, and easy to include and separate the new tenant. Tenant means in a different tenant, different department base you can create. Not static, the organization base will not be static, but easy to categorize. Different organization, different OUs. Now these OUs, the important thing with the OUs is that we can apply the group policy objects on these OUs to allow or deny or add some restriction on these users. So we can categorize the users based on the location, resources, organization or multi-tenancy, and then we create the OUs and separate these users based on that. And then we can apply the group policy based on their different location, different organization or different tenancy. Now OUs can also be a hierarchical. We can create the hierarchical OUs also, like in one OU we create multiple other OUs, then other OUs we can create other OUs. We can go on to create nested OUs. Nested OUs, that means in one OU we create other OU, then in that OU we can create other OU, then also we can create multiple OUs. Now align OU strategy to administrative requirement, not the organizational chart, because organizational chart are more subject to change than you IT administrator models. So when you try to create when we try to create what the OUs, nested OUs, then we should not create based on the organizational chart. Organizational charts can be changed. Then ADDS inheritance behavior can simplify group policy administration because it allows group policy to be set on an OU and flow down to lower OUs in the hierarchy. Then also OUs we create because we want to apply the group policies, and group policies will be inherited to the lower OUs. That means if we create one OU, inside that we can create the other OU. This is what the nested OUs. Then inside that OU I can create other OU. Now if I apply some policy on this OU, so it is going to be inherited to this OU and all these sub OUs, all these nested OUs. Then plan to accommodate for change in the IT administration model also. So if you are creating the nested OUs, hierarchical OUs, then you have to plan for the change also. Now when we are creating the OUs, we have to consider the OUs can be created using ADDS graphical tools or command line tools like PowerShell. Then the new OUs are protected from accidental delete by default. That option which was for the user accounts, we have to select that option. Now for OUs, that option is by default selected. And when the objects are moved between OUs, directly assigned permissions remain in place and inherited permissions will change. So when you change some object from one OU to other OU, so the directly assigned permissions, that means the permissions which we have assigned directly, whatever the permissions we have given to that user directly, that will remain same, but the inherited permissions will be changed. That means if you move this user from one OU to this other OU, so the permissions for that user we have given permission directly, they will remain same, but the inherited permission, that means the permission which is coming from the upper OUs will change based on these OUs. Then appropriate permissions are required to move objects between OUs. So if you want to move the object from one OU to other OU, then you have to have the permission to manage these two OUs also. Now administrator can manage the every OUs. It has all the rights, but administrators can delegate some other users to manage the OUs also. Like if we have 10 OUs here, so suppose based on location, we have one OU for Mumbai, one OU for Delhi, one OU for Chennai. Now administrator is sitting on Pune or Delhi, maybe Delhi, so he can manage Delhi's OU. But for managing the OU from Mumbai or Pune or Chennai, he is not able to go there. So it can do what? He can delegate the permission for the user to the user or some user who can be around that place, and that they can manage the OU from there. So the administrator can delegate the permission on OUs to different user also, and that user can manage the permission, manage that OU, that particular OU. Now if you are moving the one object from the one OU to other OU, so that user account which is managing the OU, it has to have permission on both the OUs to do that. Otherwise only administrator can do that. Then Active Directory domain services permissions, user receive their token list of SIDs during the sign in. So when they sign in, they get the Kerberos tokens from the KDC. So objects have a security descriptor that describes that who, that means SID, has been granted or denied access, and which permission, that means read, write, create or delete child permissions on the OUs. Then what kind of objects they can create or which sub levels they can do manage. Then when users browse the Active Directory structure, their token is compared to a security descriptor to evaluate their access rights. So when you provide the permission, when we give the delegate the right to manage the OU, so it goes like this, and how it goes like this in Active Directory. When it browses the Active Directory structure, the token is compared to the security descriptor to evaluate their access rights, that whether the user is having the right on that OU or not. So for delegating the ADDS permission on the OU, permissions on ADDS objects can be granted to user or groups, and permission model are usually object based or role based. The delegation of control wizard can simplify the assigning common administrative tasks, and the OU advanced security properties allow you to grant the granular permission. So we can we can allow some user to manage the OU by using the delegation control wizard, and it will simplify the task. And we can, or the OU advanced security properties allow you to grant granular permissions. Now how we can create the OUs and how we can do the delegation also, we can see now. Okay, so for creating the OUs, we have by default two OUs here. That is the domain itself is a OU where we can assign the group policy. Then this domain controllers container is also the OU container, and you can see the different icon here in this container. So we can assign the group policy on this container. This is also a OU container, but these containers are not OU containers. These are default containers. Now if we want to create the OU container, so we can create it from the Active Directory users and computers. We can create it from the administrative center, even we can create from the PowerShell also. So for creating the OU, we have to select where we want to create the OU. I want to create the OU directly under the domain. So I will right click on it, new, and then I will select the organizational unit. Now here we have to give the name for the unit, like it is depend on us, like what plan we are doing for this. Like we are creating the OU based on location, policy, location, resources based, organization based, whatever we want. Like for example, I am creating it based on the location. This is for India, and we can see this, it is already selected, this option, protect the container from accidental delete, and then just fine, it is created now. And you can see the option here, same icon here, same as the domain controller icon. So this is what the OU. Now we can create child OUs also, sub OUs also. Inside OU one we can create another OUs. Like I want to create one more OU here, so I will go on to select this. I will create new OU. Now this OU I will create location base. This is for Maharashtra. Then I have one more OU under this. For Gujarat. Now under Maharashtra I want to create new OU under that. So we can go on to create nested OUs. This is for Mumbai. Then under this we have one more OU, Pune. Under Gujarat also we have OU. Then under Mumbai we have OU for users. or I can say Mumbai users. Then I have other OU for computer accounts. So just like this, we can create multiple OUs. We can create OUs based on departments. Like for example, under Pune, we have sales department. Under Pune, we have accounts department. Under Surat, we have HR department. So just like that, we can create multiple OUs. Now OUs will do create for separating the users and separating the management. So if suppose we have already a users created, then what we can do, we can move these users from one OU to other OU. So for moving the users, what we do, we right click on the user, we select move here, and then we can select where we want to move them. So I want to move this user to Mumbai users. Now the user is moved from this user container to this Mumbai user. Or even we can do what? We can just click and drag. We can drag them to these OUs here. And when you drag, you will see this message, and this message says that based on the OU, the policies will apply. The policy will inherit it based on the OU. And if the account is not created there, then what? We can create new accounts directly there. So either we have already the accounts, so we can move those accounts, we can click and drag those accounts, or we can directly create those accounts in the OUs. Now OUs are by default selected that it is not going to delete accidentally. Now accidentally, that means if you try to select the OU and try to click delete, this is what you are deleting the OU. It is not like you are deleting accidentally. Like when you delete something, it says that do you want to delete. So it is not like you are deleting accidentally. You will say, okay, yes, I want to delete. That means you are purposely deleting it. But still it will not allow you to delete. It says you don't have a sufficient privilege to delete. I have logged in as an administrator, but still I cannot delete this because of that tick, that checkbox which says accidental, protect the OU for accidental delete. Now if you see the properties here, so you will not see that checkbox here. It will show you the description, street, address about this OU. It will show you who's managed by this and com information, but it will not show you the checkbox which you want to remove to delete this OU. It will not show that. Now if you really want to delete this OU, then you have to go for view, advanced features, and under the advanced feature you will see that checkbox. Now I want to delete this, so I will right click on it, I'll go to properties, and now I will see some more tabs here, more tabs, and in that we will see this object tab also, and under the object tab you will see the information about the objects, and that will see this accidental protect option, and then you will remove this, and now you can delete this OU. And now it is deleted. Same as for the user accounts also, the user accounts which we have selected the to protect the accidental delete, so it will also not be able to delete if you try to delete them unless you remove that checkbox. So this is the nested OU structure. Now you can give the permission for user to manage some OUs. So if you want to delegate the permission for some user, then first you have to make sure that user is not in that OU. That means if the user is in that OU itself, then what, that user will get the permissions from the it will get the restriction also for the OU. So it may not be able to manage the OU properly. Now for managing that, what we have to do, we have to allow some user. Like for example, for this Mumbai users, I want to give permission to manage this other user, which is not in that OU. It is under this OU container. I will give this user permission to delegate a delegation to manage this Mumbai user OU. For that, I will right click on it, and then I will get the option to delegate the control. So everything cannot be managed by single administrator. So administrator give delegation to different users. So because that user located in Mumbai, so it can do what? Like it is in the Mumbai and it is an administrator of Mumbai. So it can do what? It can manage this OU. So I will delegate this. I will select this and it will open this wizard. And this wizard will guide you to delegate the permission. So let's guide it. Next. Now it is saying select the user or even a group. So even if you want to give the permission to multiple users, so don't have to select single user. We can add those user into a group and we can select the group here. I will select normal user here first. So this is the user which I want to give. And then next. Then this is what the permission, the delegation what you want to give, what task they can do. This is the delegate the following common tasks. These are the common tasks like create, delete and manage user accounts. You can give reset user password and force password change next logon. You can give read all user information, create, delete and manage groups, and all these different common tasks we have. If you want to go for advanced, then you can go for create custom. And next you will see that delegate control of this folder, existing objects in this folder and creation of new objects in this folder. That means this folder, and on the new in this container we can create new OUs and all that. So what it can do, it can manage the object, account object, bootable devices or computer object. Let's say I want to give the permission for account objects. So I will select account object. And what permission you want to give? You want to give only for this following folder, or you want to give for the all folder. So you want to give only for this folder, or you want to give for all folder. So you have to select that. So if I want to give only for this folder and account permission, or I want to give for the everything. And then you want to give permission. What permission? General, property specific, creation, deletion specific, control, read, write. So you can give these permissions. Now I will go on to give this create, delete and manage user account. Finish. Now this user can do what? It can manage this OU. It can create, delete user account here. It cannot do anything on any other OU. It is a normal user. Remember, this user is still a normal user and it does not have any right on the Active Directory. Now how it can use this these permission? So it can log into domain controller. It will not able to log into domain controller because it is a normal user. So it will log into the client machine, like where it is logging in, and from that client machine it will install the remote administration tools. This is RSET, and then from that tool it will get this Active Directory users and computers tool also, and that from that tool it can manage the OU. Remember, users, these are normal users and they are not able to log into domain controller. They can do it from the remote machine. They can log into remote machine, client machine, and install the remote administration tool, and then from that tool it will manage the OU. Because we have given the permission, it can do that. But I want to see that whether it can do that or not right here. So what I will do, I will add this user into one group so that it can log into this domain controller. Now I don't want to give this user a more permission. So what I will do, I will add this user into backup operator group. I will add this user into backup operator group. Now this backup operator group means the user can do the backup things, and for doing this it has to log into the domain controller. So now this user can log into this domain. Now what I will do, I will log out from this administrator, and I will log in as a that user which we have given the permission. So I will log in as a other user. Now it can log in here on the domain controller because we have added that user into backup operator group. Now it wants to manage that OU, so it will open the server manager. Okay, because it is on the domain controller. Now what, I will go to tools. It cannot open the server manager directly, and it will go to administrative tools, and it will try to open the Active Directory users and computers. Again it is not able to open because we have given only the permission to manage that OU, but it is not having permission on the domain. Okay, I will open it for him. We have given the permission here, so it can do what? It can create new account without any error. It can create, this window is opening, and it can delete the existing account also because it is having the permission on this OU. But normally user will not use this directly on domain controller. It will use it from the client side. It will log in into the client side, and it will log in as and then it will install the remote access tool, and by using the remote access tool it will do what? It will use the permission. Is what this is the how we have OUs. We can create OUs, manage and delegate the permission on OUs. So we have seen how we can manage and create user accounts and OUs, and how we can delegate some permission to OUs and for the normal users.